for fans of Bungu Stray Dogs, I Hand My Sweet Gifts to My Sweetheart by Decasafridge is a heartwarming and intense exploration of the bond between Akutagawa Ryunosuke and Nakajima Atsushi. This fic deftly weaves moments of tenderness and tension, creating a captivating narrative that will keep you engaged from start to finish. In this fic, Atsushi has developed a habit of gifting small tokens of affection to those around him. While most people respond with simple thanks, Akutagawa's reactions are anything but ordinary. The fic is structured around 3 instances where Atsushi gives Akutagawa a gift, culminating in a heartwarming moment where Akutagawa reciprocates. Published in September 2023 and part of the Shin Soukoku Big Bang 2023 collection, this 4-chapter fic is a perfect blend of mutual pining, emotional depth, and heartfelt confessions. With 8,541 words, Decasafridge captures the complexities of Atsushi and Akutagawa's relationship, drawing readers into their evolving dynamic. Whether you're drawn in by the promise of fluff or intrigued by the undercurrent of violence and injury, I Hand My Sweet Gifts to My Sweetheart offers a beautifully balanced and richly detailed story that will leave you deeply satisfied.
I tell a lie 9 times out of 10, 'cause they always leave like the wind.
What is this? Why are you giving me this? Akutagawa asks so quickly that Atsushi doesn't have time to answer before he follows up with a quick, "Don't just stand there wordless, Jinko." Atsushi bites back a sharp retort for a moment before he remembers that he's with Akutagawa, and he lets out a quick, "You know, you could just say thank you first before insulting me." Akutagawa gives him a long look through his too wide-rimmed sunglasses that are too big and stupid, but he wears them so well that Atsushi can't think of a snappy retort about them. "You don't have the salary to be buying treats just to hand them out," Akutagawa says, words so blunt and face so flat that Atsushi goes through a cycle of rage, calming himself down. Realizing that it's Akutagawa, so he might genuinely be trying to make him upset and getting mad again, only to calm back down when he realizes that it was a genuine statement that Akutagawa had believed. There's no sneer in his lips, no challenge in his eyes. "Yes, I do," Atsushi says. "No, the man who washes his entire body with a single bar of soap does not. I regret ever telling you that." Atsushi huffs. "And yes, I do have the salary for this. It's simply called a salary. Maybe you've heard of it?" "Of course I've heard of it." Akutagawa snaps back quickly, lashing Atsushi with his tongue, but Atsushi has been lashed so many times that he's grown thick skin. "I'm just saying that you don't have the funds to be so kind, soft." Akutagawa growls at him, as if he's the Jinko here. Atsushi simply rolls his eyes and splits the sugar-covered red bean bun in half. The large chips of sugar cling to his skin, but they're nowhere near as satisfying as the twin spots of red that appear high up on Akutagawa's cheeks. Atsushi didn't expect them, nor did he plan to make Akutagawa blush, but now that he has, he's never going to give that up. "Don't look at me like that, Jinko." Akutagawa snaps, blush replaced by an angry flush that covers his entire face, the one that Atsushi is intensely familiar with and likes far less. "And I refuse to take that from you and have to pay you back. What would I even ask for in return for half a treat?" Atsushi replies, leaning closer on the small bench. Akutagawa doesn't budge, impervious and cold, just as he always pretends to be. Unluckily for him, he's spending time with Atsushi, who sees through nearly all of his shit and knows that Akutagawa is just as exhausted and sugar-deprived as he is. "Come on, Akutagawa. You know that I wouldn't hold it against you. Don't blame me for trying to help you keep a handle on your finances. Don't blame me for not taking any financial advice from Dazai-san." That shuts Akutagawa's mouth tight for a moment, before his brow furrows and Atsushi sees the fight in his jaw muscles before he opens his mouth, waiting. Atsushi always hates using Dazai to win arguments, calling upon a worse former version of the man who he doesn't feel as if he knows anymore. He didn't ever feel like he knew Dazai, not truly, but coming to know Akutagawa was like knowing that Dazai had an evil twin that hid in the mirror. He hates it, and tries not to use it. Well, he tries not to want to use it because it's so easy, but he does want to use it. Atsushi hates using Dazai as an excuse because it hurts Akutagawa, and yet finds it so easy to do because it seems like Akutagawa is so hard to hurt until he touches him so lightly in the wrong spot, and Akutagawa crumbles to dust on the spot. "You've done so much work to get me here, now are you stopping?" Akutagawa huffs. Atsushi realizes, with an embarrassed start, that he had gotten lost and remained still. Dessert just centimeters away from Akutagawa's mouth, and their position so awkward that several passers-by were looking at them. There's one Dazai-type person that lifts their camera and takes a photo, cooing loudly about realistic statues that Atsushi isn't quite sure isn't Dazai in a disguise, which would be stupid and also irresponsible because they are supposed to be having a stakeout right now because there is a food truck that is supposed to front for a new organization. Hey, stupid and irresponsible, is that actually Dazai? Jinko. Akutagawa says once more, and before Atsushi lets himself think anymore, he shoves the bun into Akutagawa's waiting mouth. nd. By that he means smear red bean paste over Akutagawa's face, because Atsushi has not been paying attention at all. "Do you want to talk?" Atsushi asks as he meets Akutagawa's pace. Akutagawa scoffs at him. "As if you could keep your mouth shut, Jinko." Atsushi, much warmer and slower to anger than Akutagawa, simply looks at him. Akutagawa's pale skin is many shades of blue right now, but even frozen blood turns him red when he flushes. "No," Akutagawa grits out, turning away from him. "I'll lose even more heat that way." Atsushi nods just once, before he clamps his mouth shut, walking in silence beside his partner. The streets are empty so far from the bustling hub of the city, and while they've walked these streets before, there is usually some accompanying chatter. Well, chatter other than Akutagawa's chattering teeth. Without any conversation, the sound was loud and clear. The only noises that could rival it were the blustering wind and rumbling of fabric as the mafioso rubs his arms. "Don't just look at me like that, Jinko." Akutagawa snaps at him after he stares for a moment too long. His nails curve inward. "I thought you didn't want to talk." Atsushi replies breezily, watching several expressions, surprise, anger, irritation flicker on Akutagawa's face, before he settled on one that could only be described as petulant before he turns away. Akutagawa shivers once more, but Atsushi can hardly feel the wind. Akutagawa sighs and it turns to white mist between them. In the distance, he could see flakes of snow on a twisting gust of wind heading directly for them. Atsushi looks back to Akutagawa and sees the split second of frigid despair on his face and doesn't take another moment to think before he pulls down his coat zipper and pulls Akutagawa closer. He can't feel Akutagawa's body heat through his clothes, but if judging by the forehead against his chin, he's freezing. "Jinko." Akutagawa snaps at him, but he bundles closer to Atsushi despite his attitude, letting Atsushi yank the jacket closed around them as the wind tears through them. Atsushi closes his eyes and bends closer to Akutagawa, and he can feel the mafioso do the same. Akutagawa's body blocks the harsh edge of the wind, and he shuffles closer for warmth. Atsushi has to suppress a shiver. There's not a chance that Akutagawa spent a single second of the last few hours somewhere warm, because every last inch of him gives a new meaning to the word cold. Even Akutagawa's lips, while exhaling lukewarm air against his neck, were still cold as his pursed lips hid against his skin. "Do you plan on holding me in this embarrassing position forever?" Akutagawa says, long after the gust of icy wind ceases and just as he is beginning to warm up. "You move away first," Atsushi mutters, feeling Akutagawa stand taller just to glare at him. Atsushi meets his smooth grey gaze easily. Akutagawa could pretend all he wanted, but Atsushi knew that the mafioso wasn't actually mad at him. Yes, he did seem quite irritated, but when he clucked his tongue and didn't move away, Atsushi knew not to take it personally. Do you intend us to walk like we're doing a three-legged race? You know, you're the one who said he didn't want to talk. They stumble forward jerkily. Atsushi's jacket is big, but not big enough for two full-grown men to fit inside. As it is, Atsushi keeps on tripping over Akutagawa's feet, and Akutagawa keeps tripping over Atsushi's feet and pretending that it was Atsushi who tripped first. If there was a significant size difference between them, maybe it would work, but they're evenly matched in height. Just walking was boring. Akutagawa says simply, glaring at someone as they cross the street, the first person that they've seen in the last 20 minutes. They stared for only a moment before turning away, cowed by the force of Akutagawa's returning glare. Listening to you shiver sure wasn't entertaining. Atsushi thinks but doesn't say, instead making a joke about how he can see the snowflakes clinging to Akutagawa's hair, to which the mafioso shoots back with something about cat fur, and Atsushi laughs. This isn't normal. He knows it isn't. It isn't normal to be knocking heads with Akutagawa at every step, or to be so close to such a dangerous man. Physically, at least. Atsushi knows that they shouldn't be this close just as well as he knows that this was a situation that he got himself into of his own accord. He keeps on getting weird looks, and he knows exactly how to stop them. It isn't normal, but Atsushi can't help but feel like he would like it to be normal. Being this close to Akutagawa, and bouncing banter between the two of them. It isn't normal, but it were to become normal, then Atsushi would reach out to moments like these with open arms. Are you good sirs in need of a coat? A salesperson calls out for them. Akutagawa stops walking, but Atsushi continues, nearly sending them to the ground in a heap. Take control of your limbs, Jinko. You can't rely on the tiger or Rashomon to keep you upright in a place as crowded as this. Maybe people will think the cold is making them hallucinate, he replies as they make their way into the store. It's a boutique, actually. Far too expensive for Atsushi, and far too pastel-colored for Akutagawa. Akutagawa gives him a long, exasperated look before he steps out from Atsushi's coat. He's not colder for it. The inside of the boutique is well heated, but he does feel Akutagawa's absence. Atsushi drifts behind Akutagawa as he looks through the coat section, leaving his side for only a moment before he returns. Akutagawa doesn't notice, feeling the fur lining of one of the few darker-colored coats. That looks warm enough. Atsushi remarks, but not as dark as your soul. I wonder who keeps on entertaining your J-jokes. Akutagawa lifts up the coat, but his eyes are turned to look at Atsushi. Even now, the cold has dusted his cheeks pink, because they aren't funny. Atsushi just winks at him, and before Akutagawa can remark on that, tells him, maybe you just need to laugh more. Akutagawa's eyebrows furrow, but his expression doesn't go fully into anger territory. I could help with that. Atsushi keeps his hands clasped behind his back, hoping that his expression is twinkling as he looks at his partner, locking eyes with him. Akutagawa's expression remains flat, but his face grows redder with every passing second of eye contact. The day I accept your help is a day I freeze to death. Akutagawa spits out before turning on his heel and retreating to one of the changing rooms. Atsushi still trails behind him, a shadow grinning like the Cheshire Cat. Don't look at me like that, Jinko. Like what? Also, you're not looking at me, Atsushi says, smiling wider as Akutagawa glares at him before closing the curtains. Atsushi's still chuckling when Akutagawa comes out. The look on the mafioso's face when he sees Atsushi nearly sends him into hysterics. He's not quite being nice, and definitely not as cautious as he is with most other people. Atsushi isn't very cautious around Akutagawa. He only notices how many people are looking at them when Akutagawa huffs and storms away. Not being so cautious feels nice, especially when Atsushi doesn't have to worry too much about the charge on his bank account. Not being cautious feels good, especially as Akutagawa falls in step with him as they leave the boutique, new coat over his usual coat. It still feels good, even as Akutagawa asks with an eye roll what he has behind his back, because you've been doing that for the last 15 minutes, Jinko. I swear that if you left your gloves in that shop, we are turning right back around. It doesn't stop Atsushi from taking the scarf out from behind his back and looping it around Akutagawa's neck. It's blue, the undertone that Akutagawa's skin was before he got a new coat, and red, the color of the growing blush on Akutagawa's face. Atsushi pushes Akutagawa's hair to the side so he can loop the fabric around his cute blushing face better. Whoa, that's a weird thought you just had, Atsushi. Why are you calling Akutagawa cute? And Akutagawa ruins the moment when he parts his pink lips and opens his mouth to say something rude, but he doesn't. Not really. In part because Atsushi didn't comprehend a word he just said, and also in part because what Akutagawa would say would never be cruel. Maybe to others' ears, but not his own. Are you going to stop? Akutagawa says next, and Atsushi just stares at him blankly. He hopes that the cold confuses his blush for a cold flush, praying to whatever god is listening that Atsushi doesn't blush with his entire face like Akutagawa does. Huh? Are you going to let go of me, Jinko? Akutagawa tacks the nickname on at the end, coughing into his fist as he steps away. Their contact snaps like a frayed spiderweb, stronger than any man-made material but too thin to show off its strength. The mafioso takes another step back, touching the scarf, and his pink blush has gone to his entire face. His eyebrows are furrowed, and Akutagawa quickly stumbles away, but Atsushi's thought process is, cute, 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 cute. Oh God, he's so cute. What is wrong with me? Why does he look so cute? Has he always looked so cute? So Atsushi does the only thing he can, stumble over a goodbye, and run away as fast as he can, because he thinks his enemy is cute, and every time he blinks he sees Akutagawa's face, seared into the back of his eyelids. Why me, Akutagawa? Of all places, of all people, why me? Was I just that close? Was there really no other choice? Sorry, Atsushi mutters instead, looking carefully at the bloody and bruised skin and using the tip of his finger to trace the wound, spreading the cream there. Tell me if I'm doing anything wrong. Akutagawa doesn't say anything for a heartbeat too long. Atsushi looks up at him, wondering if he's fallen unconscious again, but despite all the blood he's lost. Now that the wound isn't gushing blood, he's sitting upright quite well. There's a slouch in his shoulders, but that's normal. I'll tell you. Akutagawa says, I'll tell you when you're doing something wrong. Which is so clearly not what Akutagawa wants to say that Atsushi wonders if he was that poor at keeping his words trapped in his throat, just behind his heart. Atsushi unwraps the bandages and asks, Are any bones broken? Not any that you could deal with. Akutagawa replies, only for to wilt under Atsushi's glare. Oh, I didn't know you had a healing touch, Jinko. Whatever is broken can heal with time. Yosano, Atsushi breathes, remembering their resident doctor. Yes, it was an ungodly hour of night, and Akutagawa was their enemy on paper, but she couldn't turn away someone in need of help, right? Even if Atsushi is the one asking, I'll go get her. You'll do nothing of the sort. Akutagawa says, I will not be in debt to anyone in the ADA. Atsushi raises an eyebrow. And we need to talk. Atsushi grits his teeth behind his lips and makes the first round with the bandage, wrapping it around his partner's waist. Why do you say that? Atsushi replies, keeping his voice light. But Akutagawa only returns his words with a frown and a small gesture with his head that Atsushi knows means don't try that with me. Can we talk after you've been patched up? Then we'll just run away from it. Akutagawa replies, Don't you think they tell me when you refuse to go on missions with me? Don't you think I know how much you despise me? Akutagawa cuts back a sharp cry. Atsushi looks down and unwraps the last bandage circuit that he's wrapped too tight. I don't despise you, Atsushi mutters. You've done a bad job of showing it. Akutagawa snaps, because you have done nothing but ignore me for weeks straight. And even now, Akutagawa grabs his chin. Apparently 3 more raps was enough for him to decide it was okay for him to make sharp movements, because he forces their eyes to meet. The blood on his face has mostly dried. It cracks and flakes off when he frowns. You aren't looking at me. Even now, after you saved my life, after you bought me another gift, are my feelings so vile to you? Is the only reason you stick around because you think you can save me? Am I only a thing for you to roll over in his hands like a nice treat? Akutagawa's voice raises before breaking. If you hate me so much, why save my... I don't hate you, Akutagawa. Atsushi blurts out. I don't hate you at all. That's why I've been keeping away, because I don't hate you. Akutagawa's face falls and Atsushi pulls his head out his grip, but doesn't turn away. And I don't want you to die. Do I need another reason to help you than that? Really? Must I do something to get something in return? You saved my life. You knocked at my door. Atsushi says back, meeting Akutagawa's hostility with his sincerity, and I couldn't turn you away, and I care for you when I shouldn't. He places one hand on Akutagawa's sound, providing pressure because even though the blood flow has ebbed to a crawl, he wants to feel like he can help someone. He wants to feel like he can do something, even when his own feelings swell and storm and block his path. He's a ship in the storm, praying blindly that he can become partners again, weathering the rain and storm and ignoring the holes in his hull. You care for me when you shouldn't. Akutagawa snarls. Atsushi can't tell which word is supposed to have the emphasis. Akutagawa speaks so fast and angrily that all of them do. I have. He stops, losing his steam for a moment. Akutagawa looks down at his side, at the hand covering his bandages, covering a mess of muscle and skin and blood. Fuck, I wish I was less conscious. Akutagawa spits out. You worried me when you were. You worried me when you started ignoring MME. I worried myself when I started falling for you. Atsushi thinks just as Akutagawa continues by saying, You are impossible to deal with, Jinko. It's all one way or all the other, because you think so hard about everything you notice and then get yourself into situation after. Situation. I'm not taking that from the man who came up to my door with a stab wound. Atsushi says, not quite lightly but not angrily either, and bled onto my carpet and then moved onto my couch so you could bleed on that too. Akutagawa starts before groaning and clutching his side. More blood on his face flakes off. I'm going to get more towels. Atsushi says, You're filthy. Akutagawa looks affronted. You are covered in blood. Atsushi corrects himself. And you, for scaring me like this. I don't want you to die, Akutagawa. I don't care if you think I hate you, or even if you rightfully hate me for that. Atsushi curls his hands into a fist, dirtying his hand by the bandage he's holding. Akutagawa opens his mouth before his mouth wavers and he turns away. Do as you must, Nakajima. Atsushi steps away to go back to the bathroom, and as he's wetting a napkin, he looks in the mirror. He's covered in blood, and he knows his pajamas are never going to recover from this. His eyes are small as pinpricks, and there's something wild in his eyes. I'm a mess. Atsushi thinks as himself as he turns his head and sees blood flake off, and so he is. We both are. Atsushi thinks as he sits on the couch and sees Akutagawa curled up on the couch, head on his knees. He wishes he knew what Akutagawa was thinking at a time like this. What are you thinking standing there? Akutagawa mutters into his knees. I wish I knew that you're thinking. Atsushi replies, and his honesty makes Akutagawa raise his head and scoff. I wish I knew why you came here. Akutagawa turns away as Atsushi comes closer, which gives Atsushi the courage to press the rag against Akutagawa's cheek and take away some of the blood. I wish I knew if you were actually okay. I wish I knew whether or not you'll survive if I let you go home like this. You don't wish to know what I want to say. Yes and no, Atsushi replies as he kneels, moving to Akutagawa's side wound. He doesn't wince. So Atsushi takes that as a good sign. Right now, I want you to live. But you don't want to talk to me. I'm talking to you right now, aren't he? Utagawa glares down at him. Atsushi can feel it boring down the top of his skull and through his jaw. I'm worried for what you might say to me. Of course I am, Akutagawa. Don't I try to listen to you when you're saying something important, and when you're not insulting me? Does that mean you only listen to my compliments? I'm listening to you right now, aren't I? If you have any more injuries, this is your last chance to tell me. Akutagawa scoffs at him. Just because I'm lying doesn't mean I won't be annoyed with you. That knife wound was my only major injury, but you did a more than decent job with it. Too good. Akutagawa mutters darkly under his breath. I am no longer in immediate danger. Aren't you glad that little gift of yours had a use this time? Atsushi blinks. I didn't. Akutagawa. I don't buy things for people asking for things in return, especially not from you. I buy it because I have the money and am building up the will to do it more often. It wouldn't have been a waste even if you had died. Akutagawa's eyes widen for a moment before he turns away, staring at an empty point on the wall. For a moment they're silent as Atsushi wipes the blood off his hands, the panicked thorns around his head loosening their hold on him. They don't speak, air thick with thoughts they share, but are too scared to admit. Do you hate me? No. Why would I? Akutagawa responds, placing his hand on his bandaged side. Maybe Atsushi saved him. Now he's beginning to wonder if he was even necessary in the first place. Maybe despite Akutagawa's dreadful fate, he would have been fine on his own. Atsushi is caught between wondering if that situation would have been better. He doesn't want Akutagawa's life in his hands that can so easily destroy everything his body that used to no longer belong to him, every full moon for 18 years straight. Maybe he saved Akutagawa. Maybe he is the only reason why the man is alive right now. The thought makes him ill. Atsushi makes mistakes so easily, he cannot imagine what would happen if he let his feelings overtake himself at a moment like this. The thought makes him ill. What if his own emotions and incompetence led to Akutagawa dying? How could he live with himself like that? You're thinking about useless things, Jinko. Atsushi starts back into awareness when Akutagawa's free hand cups his cheek. His hand is cold, but Atsushi doesn't pull away. I can see your mind racing around events that do not matter. They do. If you're thinking about me ending up dead tonight, then no, it doesn't. Stop worrying. That expression doesn't suit you. It suits me quite well. Atsushi shoots back. I wear it often enough. No, it doesn't. You look much better when you aren't worried. Akutagawa's thumb presses into his jaw and he lets out a low sigh. You see, this is why I wanted to be less conscious for this. Atsushi's heart twists, but he calms himself. He cannot just go putting his own emotions on Akutagawa because he cannot process them himself. Just because Akutagawa's eyes shine like that doesn't mean anything. Just because Atsushi likes him doesn't mean that Akutagawa likes him back. Tears spring to Atsushi's eyes faster than he can stop them, warping his vision as he rips his face away from Akutagawa and tries to bury his face in the ruined couch as relief, hatred and affection war in his chest and tear his heart to ribbons. Instead, his face meets Akutagawa's leg, but the mafioso doesn't turn him away and lets Atsushi cry against him. I'm pathetic, Atsushi thinks as he wails into Akutagawa's leg. I'm not worth the time anyone spends on me. Your ability to cry, sympathize and cry for your enemies surprise me, Akutagawa says. He tries to keep his voice steady, but Atsushi can hear that his voice is thick with emotion. You're not my enemy, Atsushi says without thinking. He breathes Akutagawa, the mafioso with his hands and soul covered in blood, but was still so like him. Being enemies with the man you've fallen for sounds counterintuitive. Akutagawa's leg tense and Atsushi immediately rears up, ready to do whatever he can to take it all back, but the look on Akutagawa's face stops him. There's relief there in his own smile that reaches all the way to his eyes, in the way he laughs. Yes, Akutagawa says as he grabs his injured side and laughs with tears in his eyes and relief bleeding from his mouth. It's so difficult, he says, and Atsushi's mind flashes back to hundreds of small moments before it lands on the expression on Akutagawa's face when Atsushi wrapped the scarf around his neck. You like me? You? Nakajima, for God's sake. Akutagawa snaps, voice crackling with nerves. Is that how you deal with people's affections? I've never been confessed to before. I'm sorry I've spent my entire childhood in hell. Atsushi snaps back, blood simmering under his skin. Is this how a lovesick schoolgirl feels? Oh God, I've dreamed of telling him so many times, but I don't know what to do. I should have taken Naomi's book recommendations. You act like people have reasons to like me. Of course people have reasons to like you. Are we really arguing about this? Oh God, you've been stabbed and made a mess of my couch and we're still arguing. Atsushi hides his head in his hands. Oh God, we're a mess. Were you unaware of Tethys? No, though I thought it would be a bit better after we'd confessed. It's been, what, nearly a month since we've seen each other last. We're due a few dumb arguments. If this continues while we're dating, I'm breaking up with you. Really. Atsushi says, as Akutagawa laughs at him. A deep belly laugh that has his entire body quaking. I'm not joking, Akutagawa. If we still fought like we did before, we wouldn't even have considered each other, would we? Akutagawa asks with a tilt of his head and soft smile on his face. Atsushi has never considered Akutagawa soft, and doesn't really do so now, but when he smiles, a light blush dusted over his cheeks and eyes lighter than Atsushi's seen them in ages. Then he can see it. No, but still, I don't like arguing with you. Not even a little bit. Akutagawa says, and his smile is more like a smirk now, so Atsushi denies him just for the sake of denying him and shakes his head. You don't like bickering with me, Nakajima? It's annoying. Prove IIT. Atsushi opens his mouth to do just that before he snaps it shut with a click. Don't you dare start laughing at me again. Oh, I won't. Akutagawa says, giving Atsushi a weak shot of hope before he continues. I would rather not guarantee that I need stitches. Atsushi stares at him until Akutagawa chuckles again. Forget arguments, you're going to be the death of me, Akutagawa. Atsushi says, dragging his hand down his face. I can't believe I'm going to date you. Akutagawa says, but his voice rises up at the end in something that sounds too close to amusement for his tastes. Did you really think I would reject you even after I admitted my own feelings? Atsushi asks him, and there's something on Akutagawa's face, a no clearly written across his features before it's gone the next second.
Link in the description, and please go over and read it. And don't forget to give it kudos and let the author know that Hidden Faith sent you. Until next time, dare to be unique.